more Warhammer today. There's a slight variation on the theme, and that is, instead of coffee, because it's, you know, nearly 7 o'clock at night, it's tea, because as much as I love coffee, and I love coffee, you have it too late at night, and basically I get indigestion, and that's not good. So yeah, you know you're old when. But you know what, I still paint toy soldiers for a hobby, so you know what, maybe I'm not that old, at least not in the head. So I haven't done a huge amount since the last stream. I think I think I got a wee bit done on him. If I hold him up to the camera, you can maybe see. Oh, hang on, I just realised that I have a few things in the wrong position now. If we move the camera to there, bear with me folks, one day I will get this sorted. Bring our light source to here, you will hopefully be able to see better. Hopefully that works out for y'all. And then we've killed the light by accident. There we go. So there we go. See, we've done a wee bit on him. We've got basically the bullet casings done and a lot of the other metallics. Getting a weird strobe effect. Why am I getting a weird strobe effect? Don't like that. There we go, that seems to have stopped it. We will run with that. Right, there we go. All good. So, basically just going to pick up where we left off. I think I've gotten pretty much all the metals blocked out, base coated et al. So, to that end, just going to start putting the wash on them, if I can find where I left my Nuln Oil, which has got to be somewhere around here. There it is. Right, so washes, if you're not familiar with them, are nice and easy to use. You literally just, yes, I am using the right brush, that's good. You just literally take them and just slap the wash on. Not too heavy a coat, mind you, but you do just throw it down where you want it, and it tends to give metallics a nice shade. You can see I've got the silver down on his rifle there, but just throwing this little bit of Nuln Oil, which is a black wash, on it just makes the metal look a little bit oily, and you know, gives it a little bit of definition, a bit of texture, which is what we want. Still cannot get over the fact that for the orc kill team, this guy is technically the sniper, because what everyone really needs is the the gift that you never knew you needed was the belt-fed sniper rifle. But yeah, I'm just continuing with the Commandos team from the Orctarius kill team box, because I decided that I was going to. I just realised I've missed the back of those shell casings, and that is absolutely glaring. So I can't actually finish those with the wash until they've got the base coat on them. So I'll find the paint I'm using for that. Rimwood brass, just so that they're not quite the same colour as the bolt gun, not the bolt guns, the other metals essentially. They don't call it bolt gun metal anymore. It's lead belcher these days. And yeah, I'm definitely showing my age now. So slap a little bit of Runelord brass just around there. And then we'll have to let that dry before I put the wash on, because if you put more paint directly onto already wet or still wet paint, you just end up mixing the two, and that it doesn't give you the colour you want, because the colour you wanted was the colour you put on the Mini. But we can finish putting our wash over the rest of the gun. We can come back and do the bullets, and we can do the rest of the metals on the sniper. He's got this wonderful bullet tooth here, where he's got a shell casing as a false tooth, which I just think is the best, most orkiest thing ever, and I've used far too much wash on that, so I'm just going to wipe my brush and take away the excess with the brush now a bit drier. We're just going to go around the model and throw some Nuln Oil over all the other metal bits. It's a very rough and ready way of painting, but then I'm kind of only really doing to tabletop standards, so I'm not going to do over much in the way of line highlights. These models are just for me to play in my games, and maybe one day I will go back and I will do the line highlights, but my goal is ultimately just to have stuff ready to put on a table, because no one really likes grey plastics, so I'm only really painting these to tabletop standard, or at least what I consider tabletop standard. It's a little, I go a little bit further than just your base colour and your wash, and there you go. I do sometimes go back and do dry brushes or little details. Like one of the other works I've got, the guy with the battering ram who looks a bit like a fireman the way I've done him. Put a smiley face on his landmine because, you know, click hello jokes are hilarious. And then just got to get round all of this, and I'll maybe go back with some contrast over some of the metal as well, because the handy thing about contrast paint, as I've said before, is that it is slightly translucent. So what you can do is, if you already have a colour, you can put some contrast paint over it and change the colour of it, and it's very good for doing coloured metallics. And I just realised, speaking of metallics, that I have missed the wee shell casing that is his earring, so I'm going to have to throw some paint on that. But that's okay. No question is, what colour do we do his earring? Because I've got a few bits of gold on him here and there, because as far as orcs go, I play Bad Moons, who are the flashiest, the richiest, and the snazziest of all of the orcs, so, you know, painting it gold wouldn't be out of place. Maybe I just do that. Maybe he's showing off how wealthy he is with all of his shiny gubbins. That's the technical term, by the way, if you're an orc. You don't have stuff, you have gubbins. So, ooh boy, this pot of shining Retributor gold has seen better days. Give it a shake just to try and get a little bit more paint out of it, but I think I'm going to have to replace it soon. Like, possibly imminently. But there's enough there to do our purposes for just now. And we're just going to slap a little bit of gold in there. Try not to get any on his ear or on his t-shirt. There we go, that'll do. Okay. So what have we got left? That bit needs to dry. The back of the bullets that we missed before, that looks like it's still a bit wet, so we'll hang fire on that. So kind of stuck just now while that wash is drying and the other bit's drying. So let's have a look at this guy that we've started. We've painted the skin tones on him, we haven't gone much further, but I haven't quite decided really what colour to do his jumper, his jacket stroke coat slash sweater. And I love the fact that this guy has a beanie. That is just the best thing ever. We are playing Bad Moons, but maybe we use some reds. Yeah, I've just noticed there's a star on his belt buckle, so I think we're just going to lean into that and we're going to paint him red, because that's just too funny not to. So And as you can probably guess, because I'm using bright base colours, specifically I'm using Wraithbone, which is a sort of off-white creamy colour. I am using contrast paints because they're really, really easy to do skin tones and fabrics with. So we are just going to paint all over his jumper. And we will, I've gone over a few details on the shoulder there, I've just realised, so we'll just have to come back and re-base that at another time. But that's fine, because I was going to do his iconography, what little iconography an orc has in yellow, just to represent the fact that he's a bad moon. Because, well, if you're not familiar with orcs, yellow is the bad moon's colour. That's how you know. Everything's bright yellow, because it's the boomiest. Yellow, if you're not familiar, orcs have a colour code for various things. Blue means it's lucky, red means it goes faster, and yellow means it explodes. So if all your stuff's painted yellow, it's extra explodey because you can afford to put the extra explodey gubbins in. That's literally how that works. That is the entirety of the orc thinking behind that. Right. And I have messed up a wee bit there, so we're just going to go back with a slightly wet brush, and we're just going to dilute that red on his hand till it's so thin you can't even really use it. And that just lets us take it off. It's one of the lovely things about contrast, just it's so easy to fix mistakes. I mean, I've seen some people debate that you don't necessarily get the same professional finish with contrast paint, but I think, to be honest, a professional painter using contrast will still get a professional result. I think you just have to know how to use your tools. And, you know, every miniature painted is a new learning experience, so, you know, there's always room to improve, there's always more to learn. But it's a cheeky wee stream today. I didn't really plan this over much. I just kind of had the opportunity, so I thought I would get this in, maybe just do half an hour or so, and do a wee bit of an update on where I am with the Orcs project. I think I mentioned previously I had a plan in mind to do an Ultramarines army, and that's definitely going ahead. But I've still got a fair bit to paint from the Arctarius Kill Team box. I've got 4 completed commandos out of 12, so you know, I'm a third of the way through, and I've got 2 more in progress, so I'm probably closer to halfway than I can be bothered doing the math for. But there's a few more bits and pieces out of the box, like the scenery, for example, that still needs done. I don't have the Kriegsmen, the Guard veterans, because I split the box basically. So I got the Orcs, and they got the Krieg. But much as I love Imperial Guard, the Orcs are my preferred kill team out of that box, and my Guard regiment is Cadians anyway. If you're thinking, Iron, how many armies do you have? The short answer is too many, because once upon a time I was very bad at impulse buying Warhammer, and I ended up with far more stuff than I excuse me. I'm still fighting a cough. I've had it for a wee while now, and thankfully it is nowhere near as bad as it used to be. but the tail end is still hanging around, and frankly, it's doing my nut in. But it is what it is. The important thing is, it's not COVID, it isn't anything serious, and frankly, I'm happy with that. I'm happy that it's not serious. That's the state of affairs, frankly. Right, so this guy has a lot of belts, I realised. I don't know if you can see under there, but he's got like breeches, suspenders. So I'm just going to do a bit of a messy job at the minute, just to make sure that I get the red in, and then I will probably come back and rebase all the bits that I have gone over with the red, because the red's a very strong colour. Some contrast paints you can get away with just painting directly over with your next colour, not Flesh Terror's red. It does not work that way. But I think we're done with the red, unless I've missed any bits behind his back. No, I think we... Oh, no, I have missed a little bit. This is why we check. Because I've learned from previous models that if we don't check, we find them later when we're trying to paint other bits, and then we make a horrible mess of everything. So, better to check it now. What's the saying? Measure twice, cut once, something like that. I'm sure that relates more to tailoring clothes than to doing literally anything else, but you know what? It's fine. I'm stealing that metaphor. Right, so that's his jumper done. He's I guess he can have the red and the... Oh wow! I just realised I've missed a huge bit. Just to the side of his left suspender. Thing is, you can check. You'll still find bits you've missed, because that's how they get you, frankly. Right. Anyway, that's the red done. I guess he's a fan of the red gobbo, our favourite revolutionary. Right, cool. The metal casings on that do look like they have dried, so that's good. We can go back and just finish the non-oil wash. And that is them done with that. So what has this guy got left? Well, the bits of the metals that are not silver could probably do with another wash of some colour. I think we might use, is it Canoptic Armor Shade, which is the it's technically the one you're supposed to use for the Silent King's Dynasty for the Necrons, but it does make a good brass for bullet casings, so I think we're going to do that. Oh, I forgot his earring. So we'll do that, and then I think the golds that we've done, we will probably give a wash of Agrex Earthshade over too. Again, just to add a little extra definition. Past that, what else does he need? He needs his scope painted, because it can't just be a solid bit of metal. How do you look through that? And his teeth, which have got their base coat on them, so that's fine. So actually, I think if I... Where's my tooth colour? There we go. Skeleton Horde, which is a fairly thin sort of brown. It's meant for doing bone, hence the name. I'm just going to get in there and paint his teeth with it. And of course he needs his eyes painted. And I just realised that I'm using way too big a brush for his teeth. But I'm here now, so I'm just going to commit. There we go. There's a little bit at the side of his mouth. And the more I look at it, the more I think it's actually a tooth. It's just sort of moulded into the side of his face really weirdly, so I'm actually just going to go back and I'm going to give that the base colour. I love wet palettes, they're so handy. Oops, think I just nudged my my array there. Pop that back where it's supposed to go. Well, despite being a wet palette, that has dried out a little bit. I probably need to put a bit more water in there. Que sera. Yeah, that's a bit better. And then that's gonna dry, and then we just put our bone color over it. As for the lens, what do we do with that? I think I am going to resort to an old trick for painting lenses, and that is to basically get the brightest silver I have in my collection, which is Stormhost if you're wondering. We're going to paint it a really, really bright colour. Then we're going to go over it with contrast so that it is a really shiny metal, and then it's going to get a colour, so it's going to look a bit like glass. And then just to round off the effect, we're going to put some varnish over it so it actually gets that glossy sheen. So we just paint our seeing piece like so. I don't know if how easily that comes up. Yeah, you can see how bright that silver is. That is exactly what we want. We just do that at both ends. Careful not to have too much paint on the brush, otherwise you end up with overflow and you make a horrible mess. There we go. Let's make sure that's a nice consistent coat. And this is basically the way I work. While some paints are drying, I'm painting other parts of the model, and I really need a jug of tea. Tea definitely helps with a cough. That is my unofficial, please don't try this at home, medical advice. If you have a sore throat, make yourself a cup of tea. So that's that. That's the silver. Then we've got our agrax, which we were going to throw over the gold just to add a little bit of luster to it. Now normally if you want really lustrous gold, you want maybe a slightly lighter brown. Agrax is quite a dark brown, but you maybe want something like Reikland Flash Shade, which is was more meant for washing skin colours, just to add a bit of depth to skin tones. But if you want a gold that looks a bit dirty but still looks like gold, it works really well. At least that's my humble opinion. And I'm basically just using Games Workshop paints. I am using my own brushes, well, some of my own brushes. I'm using Games Workshop ones as well. But I found this set of brushes off Amazon. They were fairly cheap, and they're all right, but what I was looking for was basically a set of brushes that's not really taking that brown the way I want it to. Yeah, that'll have to do. I basically want a set of brushes excuse me, with that kind of point to them, but in varying sizes, because I was watching a few YouTube videos about, you know, basically how to paint certain color schemes or certain tips or tricks to try and improve your painting. There's a wash I'm looking for and I don't know where I've put it. I will find it. It'll be fine. This is fine. There it is. But yeah, and I noticed they were all using brushes that looked like the Games Workshop brushes. Like, I mean, I have some of the GW brushes. So, for example, here's your medium layer brush. You know, pretty simple. Got a relatively fine point on it, but they were using them, and they were huge, like this thing. I mean, this one's seen better days, but like I said, it was a really cheap brush, and I just wanted to try it out. And they were basically able to paint to a level of detail with these massive brushes because they had such fine points. And, you know, it meant that they could paint large areas to that level of detail as well. So I basically went looking. I asked around a few Facebook groups et al. And yeah, basically didn't want anything too expensive because like, there's Artist Opus or well, basically there's a range of like really fancy like professional level brushes, and I was like, I'm not sure I'm that good a painter to justify ruining brushes that nice. So rather than dropping a lot of money on those, I went and got myself a pack off Amazon of brushes like these in a bazillion different sizes. Mostly on the recommendation of some very nice people on social media. And they have improved my painting so much just because they have allowed me to practice using essentially the right tool for the job. Because one of the bits of advice that I saw on YouTube that has kind of stuck with me and that always kind of made a lot of sense is essentially always use the largest brush you can for the job you need to do. And at first I was a bit like, how the hell do you control that much paint? And I basically realised it's because the large brushes I had were the wrong shape. Because if you've seen Games Workshop's large basing brushes, because they don't do layer brushes above a medium size, because they're primarily meant for highlights. Games Workshop's larger base brushes are all flat with straight edges. Like, that is so much harder to control than a point, or even a large point. So I wondered basically where all these people on YouTube were getting these giant pointed brushes from. So I went and had a look, and then I got some, and then my painting got a lot better. Just, you know, going back and redoing and washing all of these bullets, I'm starting to get a real appreciation for just how many bullets this guy has on his person. And I think he very much subscribes to the philosophy of that there's no such thing as overkill, there's merely open fire and you need to reload. I also kind of like the way the bullets on the smaller straps. Oh, I've made a wee bit of a mess of that. Not too much though. We can go back to the slightly better and just tuck that wash into the bottom of the shell casings, and then it looks like it's supposed to be there. There we go. That's better. But yeah, on the smaller straps he's got full of bullets. He's got like a series of pointed bullets, and then every fifth or sixth one's got a flat end to it, which I presume is a tracer round or something. But I just love that level of attention to detail, and that even in belt-fed weapons there's still variances in the ammunition, because the idea is that they are essentially throwing a variety of stuff downrange. So I think what we're going to do is, because blue is a lucky colour for orcs, you can see I've already painted his armbands blue. We're going to paint his scope blue as well. So we've got a nice bright contrast colour here, and hopefully you'll see exactly what I mean about putting contrast over bright metallics. So we get a wee bit of that, and then we just do over the lenses. And you can already see how well that works. I'll tilt that a bit, maybe the light will catch it better. That actually looks like the end of a glass scope. And then we just do the same on the other end. And then when that's dry, we just varnish it. and then the reflective sheen that the varnish gives it it almost sort of cancels out the sort of metallic look, or rather it combines with the metallic look and you get that nice glossy effect. We've got a few other bits to do on this guy, because I did notice that there was a wooden stock, well, or like handle just under there, so we can't leave that looking all metallic. We need to do it like wood, so I'm gonna have to rebase it so we can prep it for contrast. I think I might need a little bit more Wraithbone on my wet palette here. I think the stuff that's there it's gone too thin because it's been on the palette for a while. Still sort of figuring out wet palettes. I'm always a little uncertain about precisely how much water to put in, and like what sort of paint you should use. I found metallics can go a bit funky on wet palettes. They can kind of separate on the palette, which is not great, and then you kind of have to mix them together, but because the palette's wet you're mixing in water at the same time and it thins them, and then you just end up with this really runny, streaky metal colour. Except that doesn't always happen, so I don't know. Is the short answer. But I'm just going to finish off this guy's rifle, and then I think we might call it there, because this was just a cheeky wee stream just to get a little bit extra done. We do need to wait a wee bit on those drying. Oh, hang on, I'm reaching for a red here and I've still got a red on my palette, so we're just going to use that. Just to do his eyes. One of the things I like about orc faces is that you can just do the eyes red and leave them, because they are aliens. They don't have to have perfectly conventional looking eyes, and geez, this guy's eyes are so small. I think I'm not actually going to manage it with that brush. I do have smaller ones. I'm probably going to have to go find them, which means it's not happening today. So I'm just gonna, I really want to show you the lens, so I'm just gonna go straight to that, and that'll have to do. So we've got our Ard coat, which is our gloss varnish. Games Workshop do a matte varnish called Storm Shield. So if you're, oh geez, there's some gunk in there, isn't there? If you're a bit confused by which varnish is which, Storm Shield is your matte, Ard coat is your gloss. And I've got too much on the brush there, but we just go back over that. But the varnish gives it that nice reflective sheen, but the metallic underneath gives it depth, so you don't have to sit there painting it like old-fashioned gemstones from way back in the day. I remember essentially what you used to have to do was you used to have to do your shades and your highlights backwards. You do your shades at the top, your highlights at the bottom, but you'd always leave a wee white dot in it somewhere just to try and mimic a reflection, and it worked. If you knew what you were doing and you did it right, it looked really, really good. But I was a lot younger then, and my painting was a lot worse, so I never did it in a way that looked good. It always looked absolutely terrible. But if I hold that up, hopefully you can get a good look at that nice reflective lens. Yep, and we've got our weird strobe effect back again. There's the other end. Hopefully you can see that. I hate lighting because lighting always gives you weird effects. yeah, I think you can kind of see it shining a bit there. But anyway, that is going to be us for now, folks. Thank you very much for joining me. It's been a fun half hour, and I shall see you all next time. Have a good night.